Welcome, everybody, to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. To go find out more about MyBookie.ag, you could go to MyBookie.ag and put in a promo code TGT100 to get up to 100% cash back bonus on your first deposit up to $300, or go to thegruelingtruth.com. Click on the banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I'd like to welcome in my co-host, 1981 national champion, and a man that picked the 76ers to go to the NBA Finals, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing good. All I got to say today is doink, 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 swish.
I don't think you can have a swish after many doinks. It just went in.
Went in didn't sound as glamorous as swish. So,
and we have a special guest today. And the special guest picked the Houston Rockets to win. So we get the Rockets, we get the Sixers. It doesn't really matter who I picked. We just all know in the end, I picked the Bucks to win it all. So they may not win it against the team I said, but help me welcome to the show, Bobby Rockets Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing great, and I just have one word for that: cover. Covering the spreads, all you got to do sometimes, Mike, and we covered it both times yesterday, so that's all I'm happy about.
All right, Bobby. Let's start off, Steve. John Beilein, which this completely shocked me, is now the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's your take on this, Bobby? Or Steve? I'll go with Steve first.
Jesus Christ.
I told you not to say those words, but all right, go ahead.
I didn't say it in vain. I just said, yeah, I'm allowed to say Jesus Christ.
No,
my
you're
Savior,
not.
my Lord, my ever-giving God. So,
now you're mocking God.
No, I'm not. I read about it. When you texted me this morning, obviously it was a kind of a shock to see a great college basketball coach leave a really outstanding program and a great conference. But when you read the writing on the wall, he's losing three players, key players this year. There's been a lot of pressure on him to win. He's not had the success lately. I'm not as shocked about him leaving Michigan to go to the NBA as I am where he's going. I think he's going into a situation where it's going to take a long time to rebuild that program unless their owner, Gilbert, is willing to spend the money, which he doesn't appear to be, to put some players in there quickly. I think that they're relying on the draft to get the Zion Williams lottery pick. I think that makes a lot of difference. So, I'm more preferable to college basketball than I am the NBA. So great coaches like John Beilein, I wish they'd stay in college, but he doesn't like recruiting that much. Recruiting is getting tougher and tougher every day to do. Keeping players in college for a period of time to where a coach like Beilein can foster and build a great basketball team is just too difficult. And he's not like a Calipari who can just manage 1 year, one and done players, and Calipari's good at doing that. So all in all, after I read your text this morning, looked it up and did the homework on it, I've got a page of notes on it. If you want to spend an hour, we can talk about it. We don't really need to. It's probably not a bad move. I think the worst part of the move is going to Cleveland. I don't think the worst part is going to the NBA.
All right, Bobby?
I like how Steve finished that off. Going to the NBA, that's definitely not the worst part. I think it's great for him. This guy has proven to be a great college basketball coach, and I think he wants the opportunity here in his career, on his resume, to prove to be a great NBA coach. And, I wouldn't bet against him being able to do that. I think he's a guy that connects well with his players and knows the game well, and I think it's a great hire for Cleveland. Let's put it that way. I think he's going to do pretty well.
Yeah, Mike, one thing too is, really, before you get into it, Mike Gagney is the GM at Cleveland, and Gagney played for Beilein at West Virginia, going to an Elite Eight, so that probably had something to do with it too. The Gagney, as a GM, wooed him into there, and one of his former players, the GM, maybe Beilein felt a little more comfortable there. But so that may have factored into it a little bit too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think this is probably making double the money. And I don't think it's a bad job, because if you go coach the Lakers and things go bad, that job's over in a year. With the Cavaliers, you're going to get time. And the other thing is, it's a great move for the Cavs because they got a great basketball coach. If John Beilein, my guess is John Beilein's 66 years old, and his goal was always to coach in the NBA. If you're 66 years old, it's time to either, I guess, poop or get off the pot. And if that's what he wants to do, it's a good move. It sucks to be Michigan right now, though.
How good is and I'm not really sure, how good is Dan Gilbert as an owner? Is he a flake, or is he considered one of the better owners in the NBA?
And well, if he's got LeBron James, he's a good owner. When he doesn't,
good owner. If he doesn't, he's a flake. Yeah.
I think the Cavs aren't as bare as they were the last time LeBron left, though, Bobby.
They're not. They already went through a year of that rebuild, and they're now ready to move on past LeBron, and so it's got an opportunity to excel, I think.
All right, so let's look at this. Who do you think is the best candidate to replace him at Michigan, Steve?
Oh, you know what? I like Dane Fife. I don't know that stratospheric leap from Michigan State to Michigan can happen, though. But I think Dane Fife is one of the best assistants out there. He's spent a long time under Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo's got a great track record, a great program. But, Michigan may be looking for somebody with a little more experience as a head coach than a Dane Fife. But Fife is qualified. But I think Archie Miller would be a good fit at Michigan.
Archie Miller is the coach in Indiana.
Well, I know, but we could bring in Steve Alford.
Okay. So seriously here, I mean, the people I would think... What?
Who's the coach at Murray State? I can't think of his name.
I don't think the coach at Murray State is going to be the coach. I think it comes down to these guys. I think the perfect fit is, of course, Jay Wright. That's the white whale. You basically offer him a blank check and make him say no. The other ones, and these are the ones that are really interesting to me, is Brad Stevens. Why wouldn't Brad Stevens go to Michigan right now? The Celtics are a mess. You're going to lose Kyrie Irving. I think Billy Donovan would be a choice. Juwan Howard, who's an assistant with the Miami Heat. Chris Beard, Bobby. What do you think about Chris Beard?
Well, he just got a big – I know this doesn't matter anymore.
No, it doesn't matter anymore because he could get a bigger time contract probably at Michigan.
Yeah, he just signed his deal, though. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's ready to leave what he's got going there, but he would be a great fit for them, just great. But it's not, that one's not going to happen.
I think another one who would be a great fit would be Laval Jordan, Steve.
From Butler?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike,
those are all good. Those are all good names for sure.
Well, I mean, Jordan was one of Beilein's star pupil assistants, and most people thought he would be the eventual successor to him. The only thing is he's coaching his alma mater now, so I don't know if he'd really want to make the jump to Michigan. Another guy to me would be Porter Moser from Loyola Chicago. I think that would be a dark horse candidate. And then what about Billy Donovan?
I think Donovan is in the NBA to stay. He seems like he's got that type thing going on. I guess he could go back at any moment, but to me, when Westbrook re-upped and George, I think he's there to stay as long as they want him. But one thing I like that you said was Juwan Howard, because these NBA former college guys going back, that seems to be a trend right now. And he's put a lot of time in.
Does Juwan have any head coaching experience?
No.
No. Does he have any college experience at all? It's all NBA, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but that seems to be a trend
you want to question his ability to recruit.
I think Juwan Howard at Michigan, I think, recruits itself.
Yeah, for a period of time. Yeah, for a period of time until they start not winning. I mean, if they do, I don't know. I don't know. Michigan to me is an elite program. Is an elite program.
How about this? They're an elite program because of John Beilein. Before John Beilein, they were not an elite program. So is it an elite program, or was this an elite coach? And now you have to replace the elite coach to continue to be an elite program.
Johnny Orr took
That
him to the
sounds
championship
good.
game against Indiana in 1976.
That was in 1976.
Yeah.
They won a national championship in 1989.
It was Steve Fisher, wasn't it? Wasn't that Fisher?
Yeah, and
Who
when
actually
you look,
took over for, who was the guy who took over for?
Bill Frieder.
I can't think of Bill Frieder, yeah.
yeah.
Who took over for Johnny Orr, yeah.
But the question is this: from the Fab Five or the ending of the Fab Five until John Beilein, Michigan was not a big-time elite program.
Yeah, I'm just not personally a fan of the favorite sons coming back to coach their alma mater. It doesn't seem to pan out as often as you think it would. And that was my fear of a guy like Alford or Woodson or anybody coming back to Indiana. I think people think you're automatically going back to the glory days, and it's not that way. I mean, and I'm not knocking Juwan Howard. Me personally, have never been a fan of the favorite son coming back to coach the alma mater. It works occasionally, but historically, it fails more time than it works.
Dean Smith did all right.
For who did?
Dean Smith.
Yeah, sure. I said occasionally it works. It works great. I mean,
Roy Williams.
Was it Roy Williams from North Carolina too? Sure, yeah. That's a program that is set up to handle that, and they've always done that. And that's part of their tradition. His favorite sons come back. So I'm not saying Juwan Howard's a bad shell. He was up for the Lakers job at one point.
Yeah, but also I think it's safe to say this,
all,
Steve.
you know.
This is a league where you don't have to be a great coach to win, Bobby. We've seen that because the Sixers, that Brown dude's a horrible coach. I think Nurse is a horrible coach, and he's in the conference finals. And the Rockets coach sucks. I mean, Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach, but he gets knocked out because in the end, I think in college it's more about how great the coach is. And I think when you get to the NBA, it's about what players you have.
Well, I think overall, in general, that is correct. But I think some of the coaching that we've been seeing in the NBA has been pretty solid in the playoffs because of the adjustments these guys make from game to game. It's been there, and their teams have pretty much shown up and made the adjustments. So I like that.
I'd like to know the adjustment Steve Kerr made, where Curry gets 0 points in the first half and 33 points in the second half. I'm not giving Kerr any credit for that. There's no adjustment he could have made for that.
Well, yeah, there was. There was an adjustment that could be made to get that. We tell him to start making the shots.
I'm all ears. There you go.
To say, hey, start making those, Steph. And then Steph did.
Start
That's
shooting
great
the ball,
coaching.
Scoring, yeah.
But,
there
all right,
go.
Let's move on to the Lakers and Frank Vogel, who looks like he will be there for about a year or two before Jason Kidd takes over. I think this is a great move for Frank Vogel because he's going to get paid for a year or two. And I think for the Lakers, though, I think the Lakers are in trouble here, Bobby. I just don't see where the Lakers are going to get their players. I don't think Kyrie Irving, I don't think there's a chance in hell he goes to L.A. There's not a chance that Kevin Durant does. Maybe Kawhi Leonard, but I doubt him also. So I think this is a dead-end job with an old superhero who's way past his prime.
That's what it all looks like for sure. And I had a thought about the kid thing. Don't you think they wanted him to work with Ball? Don't you think that was the big point there, bringing him in, was to work with Ball? See, what do you think about that?
With the Lakers, yeah. With the Lakers, I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason to what they do.
I disagree.
Well, it seems like they had a plan here because they wanted him to come in and assist Lou, and Lou said, don't want that and don't want 3 years. He wanted 5. So Vogel says, okay, I'll take 3, and kid, you can come along. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be as insubordinate as you think.
At least Vogel's a good coach. I mean, he took the Pacers to the Eastern Conference Championship 2 years in a row, and he had probably some of the best success Orlando's had in their last 20 years of their franchise. But again, I think Vogel's a sacrificial lamb. I think he's going to get paid for 3 years, but probably coach 1 to 1.5 years. Because I agree with you, Mike. I don't think they're going to be able to draw the talent in here into Los Angeles if they want to. I like, Bobby, your observation about Jason Kidd working with Lonzo Ball. They've got money invested into Ball. He's a local hero here, and he's not developed on his own the way he should have been. So I think that's it. And by bringing Vogel in to be the head coach for a year and a half, you give kids just a year and a half just to work with Lonzo Ball and not have to worry about running the day-to-day operations of the team. So that's a great observation, Bobby. It's a good move on their part.
Yeah, I like that too. And I think Kidd also helps recruit a certain guy or two. I think he was key to this piece, and I don't think it's such a bad thing, actually. I kind of liked it. I think at least it gives them something to stand on and go forward with. And you're right. They have to get a guy in there, a couple of players.
The scuttlebutt is that Kidd was sitting in on all the interviews for the head coaching. And you got the assistant coach sitting in to hire the head coach. That's kind of unprecedented.
Which is why we know Frank Vogel's not a good coach. A good coach doesn't go to that situation, Bobby.
He's not the coach of the future. He's not the good coach of the future. He's not a good coach for the future of the Lakers. He's not going to be around a long time. I wouldn't say Vogel's not a good coach.
Well, he's not.
I just think where was he coaching before this?
I don't care.
I don't even know. Was he in the NBA?
He was at Magic, 2016 to 2018. But I'm just telling you this.
And then he's unemployed, so he takes a job.
If I'm coming in and what is supposed to be my assistant is the guy that's sitting there when I'm getting
interviewing me,
I'm not taking the job.
Well, that's what Ty Lue said. The hell with this.
Yeah, and I have a ton of respect for Ty Lue now.
I do too. I gained respect for him turning it down. Because the Lakers is a job that everybody wants, whether it's good or bad. It's showtime.
I put it like this: if the Lakers was a job everybody wanted, Frank Vogel wouldn't be the head coach.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a good point. Maybe it's just my fantasy of of the '80s of the Lakers showtime.
And I think I think New York is the place to go because I think they're getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and if the right ball pops up in the lottery, they got Zion Williamson too.
Yeah, Knicks could go from outhouse to penthouse real quick, and all of a sudden they're a darling team in the NBA. And you know how bad New York wants, the NBA wants New York to be a contender. It's their own franchise. I mean,
all I can bring up is
1985
draft lottery where the Pacers were almost assured of winning it, and Patrick Ewing ended up being a Knick.
Yeah.
So, who did we get out of that? Was that what we got, Steve Stepanovic, or did we get Wayman Tisdale?
No, we took Stepanovic after Ralph Sampson, didn't we? I think we took.
I'm not sure. Yeah, Stepanovic, I think was earlier. I think he was like 83.
Yeah, that was the second pick after Ralph. Houston got Ralph Sampson, and we got Stepanovic.
Yeah.
With Patrick Ewing, was that Tisdale?
I think we may have gotten Tisdale. Tisdale was a stud, though. He just wasn't Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, he was beloved by the city too.
He was one of my favorite Pacers of all time.
Yeah, great guy. You'd see him around in Indianapolis, and he would always sign autographs. I mean, just a consummate class act all the way around. It's tragic we lost him.
All right, let's look at that little clang, clang, clang swish from yesterday. The Toronto Raptors with a buzzer beater from Kawhi Leonard beat the Philadelphia 76ers 92-90. When we look at this game, Bobby, what stands out to you?
Oh, what stands out to me is, I was very surprised that Philadelphia got out-rebounded. That was the first time in the series that had happened. And offensive rebounding absolutely is what won the game for Toronto. And those plays at the end of the third quarter that Lowry made, 2 or 3 offensive rebounds and assists there at the end, was 8 points. And I think that was a big swing in the game, although Philadelphia got back to even. But the rebounding is what really surprised me, that Toronto out-rebounded them.
Yeah, and when I look at it, the thing that really shocked me was the fact that you don't just put Joel Embiid in the post and feed him the ball, Steve.
No, the guy belongs out on the wing playing and maneuvering. He's got a good jump shot.
Really? You think Embiid belongs on the wing?
I think he's strong and fast enough to go to the hole.
Well, and he did, and he scored 21 points. He picked up like 3 or 4 fouls on charges, and there was no inside presence. The inside presence was Jimmy Butler.
He still got 11 rebounds. He still pulled down 11 rebounds in the game, led the team in rebounding. So, yeah, I don't know. I think basically I was not impressed with the game, period. I thought both teams were kind of flat. I don't think either team coached their teams. I give 76ers put 5 players in double figures, got only 8 points out of their bench. Basically, it was a 5-man game for them. I think they got tired. And it just seemed to me that the will to win wasn't as great as I thought it would have been. And 76ers had every opportunity to go into Toronto and win this game. I thought they were going to come out and pull it out. And then get it to overtime. I think, okay, 76ers got a little bit deeper firepower. They can just shut Leonard down. But I just thought there was lethargy on both sides of the court until probably the last 2 or 3 minutes, and then got into a frenzy. And then we got the result we got.
All right, Bobby? What do you think? Joel Embiid, your center. Do you want him on the wing or you want him in a post?
I want him in the post at that point in the game. You know, they could have
at that point in the game.
Different. Yeah,
at any point in the game. He's your freaking center, Steve.
Yeah, I think they could have thrown something different at Toronto at that point. You know, they basically just stayed in their offense. And I guess there's something to be said for that. But I think, those last couple of minutes, get him down there and let's open up some inside-outside stuff. That's what I don't remember if it was Mark Jackson or Greg Anthony. I think it was Greg Anthony that game, right? He did a great job of describing it. That's what he wanted to see. And I think he was right there. I think that would have given a couple different looks to Toronto. Toronto really defended them really well the last 4 or 5 minutes. Disappointing loss to Philadelphia. I think they're the better team, and I think they got beat.
I thought Gasol was handling him in the post. I mean, Gasol was holding his own against him when Embiid went down low.
No doubt. And Steve, did you think that was a great moment at the end of the game when Gasol embraced him?
Went up. Yeah, I love to hear what he said to him. Yeah, because Embiid was in tears, and that gave me a lot of respect for Embiid. That guy was crying. I mean, he was in tears. He put his heart and soul into that game. But I thought that was really cool when Gasol went, put his arm around him, and and what was even cooler was Embiid received it. You would think there was a possibility that Embiid would just push him aside and say, "Leave me alone," because he was crying. But, Embiid put his arm back around Gasol, and they talked for a good 20 seconds. And I thought that was very classy on both players. Made me feel better about the NBA in general that happened.
Yeah.
Good call on that, Bobby. Very good call that you pointed that out. But I thought Gasol was handling down in the post. So if that's the case, move Embiid out. Embiid's athletic enough; he can play out there. I know it's not his ideal place, but what was going on wasn't working because the Toronto Raptors were kind of controlling the game at that point. Or Leonard was controlling the game basically. He puts up another 41, but it came down to one shot, and like I said, doink, 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 down and through. So you can't say swish. Mike already shot down the swish theory. So
oh, swish is a swish. You don't know what a swish is, Risley. You were 6'8" and just banked them in from 3 feet.
There you go.
Hey, Risley, you scored your last 2 points in college ever were from the free throw line, though. Is that correct?
No.
Last point.
You missed 1 of the 2 free throws, so.
I said the last point.
Okay, I'm just trying to clear it up that you missed 1 of those 2 free throws.
But I was told to miss the second one and get the clock running.
I don't think you were because it was 63-50 after the shot and there was like 5 seconds left. So I don't think for 1 second Coach Knight ever said, "Hey, Risley, missed that second one. We got to get the clock run out before Carolina comes back and beats us."
You don't know whether that's legend or lore. You'll never know.
Well, because this is the thing. I think Bobby Knight's a pretty damn good basketball coach, so I don't think he'd worry about you making or missing a shot.
Before we get off on the other game, what amazes me? When guys like Mike Gagney, who was the GM for Cleveland, when they introduced him as a player who made it to the Elite Eight.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. It's just kind of like national champion goes a little bit farther.
What's really interesting to me, though, is when somebody who won a college national championship and that's all they did is ripping on a guy who's a GM of an NBA team.
Yeah. I didn't rip it on him. I just said it's just fascinating to me.
Where did he play college basketball at? West Virginia?
West Virginia.
Oh.
Take me home.
I hate to tell you this, but West Virginia,
Mountain
the Elite
Mamas.
8 is the same as winning a national championship.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Because
one
it's
man's
West
trash,
Virginia.
another man's treasure.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, how many times did you make it to at least the Elite Eight your other 3 years?
None. But
Okay.
it only takes one time.
Yeah.
So,
and Isaiah Thomas. If he had Isaiah Thomas on his team, he'd have a national championship.
He probably would have gotten a national championship. Probably
there you
would
go.
have, no doubt.
All right. So
but, like I said, Mike, all the time, if is the middle word in life, isn't it?
No, it's not really. It's not the middle word of life. I didn't know there was a middle word of life, Risley.
There is.
You know, you need to quit sitting around watching reruns of reality TV shows and then reading quotes. Because I bet before we do this show every morning, you just type into Google famous quotes so you can try to pull something up you can say during the show and sound halfway intelligent.
I've got them all in my head. They're already there.
That's the only thing in your head, Risley. Eastern Conference Finals. Do the Raptors have a shot against the Bucks? Steve?
I think it's going to be a good series. Leonard, he's carrying this team, but Gianni has got a stronger team around him. I think it's going to be a good series, but I think that in the end, with home court advantage and with Gianni surrounded by a better supporting cast, I got to go with Milwaukee in this one. But I don't think it's going to be a 4-1 series.
I don't either. I think it's going to be 4-0 because there's no way the Canadians win a game here.
I'm usually wrong about these things anyway, so I try not to make these predictions anymore.
Bobby will be wrong with you because he thinks they can win 2 games too. Bobby?
Yeah.
I do, and I'm just trying to project a little bit. I think Toronto's going to gain something from this last series, and I think they're going to take that to this next series and be competitive in this series. And, you tell me being competitive, that's not being a sweep. So I have to say they're going to win a couple games. I think they're definitely good enough basketball team to do that. I was impressed with Lowry and the job he did yesterday, the grit that he showed. And, Philadelphia is a weird team to play against because they do things a little bit different. And I think that starting 5 was pretty formidable. I think that they get and play Milwaukee. They could have some success there, Mike. I wouldn't just say it's over with. I think Toronto definitely win a couple games there.
I don't see it. I just don't. I think they're too deep. I mean, you got basically 5 guys. Hell, a lot of times they have 7 guys scoring double figures. I think they're deeper. And what I see with Toronto is when Kawhi Leonard gets the ball, the other 4 guys stand and watch.
Yeah, but they had
and Kawhi scores. So
yeah,
I mean, I stand and watch too. What do you think we do with Isaiah?
But you're looking at Chris
Isaiah.
Middleton, Eric Bledsoe. Giannis. This is a really good defensive team, and I hate to tell you this, but Kawhi Leonard is not even the best player on the floor in this series.
Well, that is true.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees with you there. I think it's Gianni, but then it's. Bobby brought up a good point. I mean, the 76ers starting 5, that's a formidable starting 5. And he brought that up, and I looked at the starting 5. I mean, those are 5 solid basketball players, and Toronto was able to handle them in 7 games. So I think it goes to Milwaukee, Mike, but on the Bobby side, I think that Toronto wins a couple games here at least. Because there is nothing shabby about the Sixers starting 5. They don't have the best bench depth. That
there is something shabby about the way they're coached and the way they play the game, though.
Well, okay, but that's not.
Which is why you can have 5 players that are better than Toronto's and still lose.
No doubt. I'm just saying the 5 players, when you get on the court and play, they were good, and Toronto got through them. So, again, I'm with you in saying I think Milwaukee's going to the finals against Golden State. But
I didn't say that. When did I say that? I said Milwaukee's going to the finals. I didn't say anything about Golden State.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be putting words in your mouth. That's fine. My apologies to you there. I think Toronto is a more formidable opponent than we may be giving them credit for. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I don't, but we'll see. I think it's 4-1 at best for them.
Just to point out that the series price did come down a peg. They opened up over $3, over 3-1, maybe $3.50, $3.25, and it's down to 3 even. And game 1 opened 6.5, it's down to 6. So the early money little bit was on Toronto. I think the value's there.
Well, Bobby, you know that we do not condone betting on this show. But in an hour and a half, you can catch us at the Sheridan Report, where then I'll change my mind and we'll condone betting.
All right.
Don't shoot your load before we get to the game, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby, do you put up the same crap I do on this show, on your show?
Yeah, but he's only got it for half the time.
Oh, he got it for half the time. Oh, you lucky dog. I
All
get
right.
it for an hour. You get it for 30 minutes.
Let's go out west, where the Golden State Warriors won the first 2 games with Kevin Durant, lost the next 2 with Kevin Durant, blew a 20-point lead with Kevin Durant, and then they lost Kevin Durant, and the Houston Rockets go on to lose the next 5 quarters in the series. Bobby, what the hell happened?
I don't know what the hell happened.
I don't know what the hell happened either.
You know, Houston, Chris Paul, he got some mental issues or something. That team should have seized the opportunity. They had a Golden State, they didn't, and it was just assuredly they're going to come home and win Game 6, and they didn't. And I don't know. I think Golden State, the whole deal with them winning a championship before Durant came, and then him being no doubt the best player, and then having that opportunity to prove it again without him, I guess that was just too much to overcome. I don't know. You know, you were dead on right. If that was a game in the fourth quarter, we were in trouble, and it was, and we were. So, Mike, I got to give you credit on that.
And I'll tell you,
right on that.
We have the discussion all the time who the best player in the NBA is, and I said it a week ago. He may not be the best player, but he's the last guy I want to see on the other team's side when we're going to the fourth quarter of a close game. Steph Curry scored, I think, 33 points. He didn't have anything at halftime. Klay Thompson, 27 points. And the thing that really stood out to me here is Kevon Looney with 14 points, Sean Livingston with 11 points. So this was more than just the Klay Thompson, Steph Curry show. You had those 2 guys step up nobody expected. Iguodala comes out and scores 17 points. I think this was a statement for the Warriors to the rest of the NBA that, you know, they are an all-time great team, Steve.
I would agree. And this, I think this is one team you can't knock the coaching on. Kerr is probably one of the best. I mean, you know, it's easy to say that when you win as many championships as you won the last 4 years. But he's a coach. And I think what was great about the Warriors is all the names you mentioned other than Curry kept the Warriors in the game until Curry lit it up.
Yeah.
You know, Thompson, Iguodala, Looney, those guys kept the Warriors close. And they all had faith in Curry that he was going to bust out eventually. You know, you're not going to keep Curry in single-digit points in a playoff game. And he busted out like there was no tomorrow. I mean, and even look, I mean, we talked about Chris Paul. He scored 27 points, but to me they were like 27 insignificant points.
Yeah. In the fourth quarter when he had a chance to make a difference, he didn't.
He didn't, yeah. He's one of those players where he puts his points on the board, gets the statistics, but he doesn't affect the game that much. And I didn't think he did affect the game. I was really surprised at how flat Houston was playing at home. And every opportunity, and I don't know, Mike, I ask you a question. Were they thinking about winning this game, and all they were thinking about was getting back and what do they got to do at Golden State in Game 7?
No, you know what I think happened
they
here?
were thinking about that?
This is what I think they were thinking about. I think when Kevin Durant goes down, all the pressure goes from the Warriors to the Rockets because the Warriors are expected to win if Durant's there. And they were playing like they were the team under pressure. They lost games 3 and 4. They blew a 20-point lead in Game 5. But once Durant left, I think, Bobby, all the pressure jumped off of the Warriors' shoulders onto the Rockets' shoulders. And my other question is this, Bobby. When does James Harden, when does people start to say, you know, he's a great player, but he's not winning anything?
Yeah, I think that's already being said. That's for sure. And did you see the comments that the owner of the Rockets said immediately after the game?
No, what he said?
We are going to get this done. We are going to get some support around James. James is going to lift a trophy. And so he came to Harden's defense right away. And, pointed him out.
Well, you know, maybe James could play some defense at some point, too. That wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, they pointed out on Twitter, I saw a couple of the guys that I follow that diagram the plays and will break it down for you. And the one guy was brought up a few times where he didn't step in front of the driver and just reach with his hand trying to poke a ball. They just didn't play solid enough defense. That's what it comes down to. And that was a winnable series. They should be playing still, and they're not. And I'm not going to say they're done, but
they're done for this year.
That's right.
And I think the big killer there was Eric Gordon with only the 9 points. I think if Eric Gordon has his normal game, I think they probably win that game.
Yeah, good point, Mike.
I still think it was the pressure. I think there was so much pressure on them. There was so much pressure on Harden. And, remember last year, Game 7, you were missing Chris Paul. The Rockets had a huge lead. They were supposed to win the game. And then Golden State comes back and wins. But at least they had an excuse. This year, the other team loses their best player, and they still lose. So to me, I think, number one, I think you need to replace the coach in Houston. And I think you need to get a couple big guys for James Harden.
Good call on both those good calls.
Because, that's a team that is so guard-dominated. Come on, Clint Capella, you're probably not winning an NBA World Championship with.
Yeah, they gave him a max contract. And let's put it this way. Are the Warriors going to be the team to beat next year? Still.
Is Klay Thompson still there?
Well, I don't think anything's known for sure.
I know, but I think that he could leave. As long as Steph Curry is there, they're going to be in the ballpark one way or the other. Because you got to figure some guys want to come play with him. I think the interesting one, like I said, is the Knicks, even though they're in the East. If they get Kyrie and Kevin Durant and win the draft lottery, you get your Eastern Conference champion right there, probably.
Yes.
I had a couple.
But you got your
couple questions,
Mike.
All right, go ahead, Bobby or Steve.
No.
Whoever.
First off, am I dreaming this? Did I see some record where Golden State's actually better in the playoffs record-wise without Durant than they are with Durant? Am I just dreaming that, or did I read that somewhere? That their playoff record is actually stronger when Durant's not playing.
Well, yeah, they're 2-0 now.
Well, he's missed other games in playoffs before too. So
it wouldn't surprise me because, as you said, or as I said before, I thought they were a lot harder matchup without Durant for Houston. Now, will we go? Did you have another question, or you said?
Yeah, I did have another question. Why does Durant want out of Golden State?
I don't know, Bobby. Do you know?
No, I don't.
Why would he want out of Golden State unless it's just to get a max contract somewhere?
Well, I would demand a max contract in Golden State. He's winning championships. He's on the best team in the NBA. I'm questioning. I keep hearing this. He's going to the Knicks. I'm thinking, I didn't get the impression he's unhappy at Golden State.
Yeah, but he can get – Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong. You know more about this than I do. But he can get a bigger contract with the Knicks.
I believe he can, yes. And I believe he can put together his own deal. I think that's was the next step on his –
Well, and the other thing, if he goes to New York, he's the man in what is the biggest market in the country outside of L.A.
Yeah, it's a career advancement for sure, right?
And the other thing is this. In Golden State, the statues are always going to be built to Steph Curry. If he goes to New York and wins an NBA championship, he will own that town for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he will.
Good point. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
I would also like to bring up to Kevin Durant real quickly, though, Steve. He could do the same thing in Indianapolis. But go ahead.
Well, I don't think Indy's quite the market. He could do the same thing at L.A., too. Come down to L.A. and play.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. In L.A., it's always Kareem and Magic no matter what happens. Kobe and Shaq were a big deal, but they're still not Kareem and Magic.
Right, but there was some flavor floating around for a while that he and Leonard were coming to the Clippers. That
I think
their owner was going to spend all the money in the world to get those guys there.
I think there is no doubt, very little doubt, that Kevin Durant is going to the Knicks, and I think Kyrie Irving's going with him. I would bet good money on that.
For the purposes you stated, it's a
Not
good
that
move for
I
both of them.
believe in betting, but if I did at 2 o'clock, you could hear the Sheridan Report on thegruelingtruth.com. Go ahead.
I think if money's what they're seeking, then that's their best option. If championships are what they're seeking, I think there are other places to stay or go.
Yeah, but if they go together to New York, I mean, then they're a contender.
I don't know. Do you see either one of those guys as leaders of basketball teams or just great players on basketball teams?
I think Kevin Durant is. I think Kevin Durant's a great player. I think he gets underrated, but I think he's a great basketball player. I don't think Kyrie Irving is a leader, but you know what? If they get Zion Williamson is.
Yeah, I think Zion Williamson is going to be a kind of.
If they had those
Johnson
three guys
player.
a year or two from now, Zion Williams will be the one carrying those guys.
I would agree with that. If he stays healthy.
Yeah.
You
well,
know,
that's for everybody.
He's going to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But he's 272 pounds, it's 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", however I've seen him listed with all three heights. That's a lot of pounding in the NBA on a body that size. And I have no reason to doubt he's injury prone because he's not injury prone. He broke his.
How about this? If he was 7 feet tall, I could see that. But at 6'6", 260, 270, hell. It's a lot better to be 6'6" and 270 taking that pounding than it is to be 6'6", 210.
Yeah.
But
I think the Knicks are poised to, if they can get all this happen, they're a contender in the East right away, immediately.
Well, yeah, because the East,
all three of those things happen.
If Kawhi Leonard leaves Toronto, they're a non-factor. So you got to get past Milwaukee. Let's go ahead and let's check out Portland and Denver, where the Trailblazers upset the Denver Nuggets in Game 7, 100-96. And I think the big key here, C.J. McCollum, 37 points. Lillard did not have his normal game. But C.J. McCollum was unreal with 37 points. And the other thing that stuck out to me here was Will Barton, 8 points. Jamal Murray, 17. Gary Harris, 15. And when you got Nikolai Jokic, why doesn't everything just go through him, Steve?
Yeah, we had this discussion. I'm absolutely amazed that I thought that Denver just came out flat. Playing at home, playing for an opportunity to continue playing a young team, you'd have think these guys would have come out
higher. They did come out jacked up. They had a 17-point lead at one point.
Yeah, but that was kind of more that Portland was stinking it up at that point too. I mean, it's a combination of both. I thought Portland was flat too. Really, I was kind of disappointed in the whole intensity level of this game at the beginning. But you're right, Denver was better at it, and they got right in that 17-point lead up. But you kind of knew the way they were playing it wasn't going to stick. That Portland was going to get out of their funk real quick and come back, and of course they did, and actually got the lead. And I think we led by as many as 7 at some point in the fourth quarter. But I agree with you that I don't understand why you don't take a guy like everything on the Denver offense should run through the big guy. Absolutely everything should run through him. The guy's got good perimeter jump shot, 10 to 15 feet. He hits the three-pointer. What was he? 2 for 6 on three-pointers. He hit more. He's the only guy that hit three-pointers for Denver. He's the only guy that hit 2 for 6. He's the only guy that hit three-pointers for him. But I think they are totally misusing this kid. He scores 29 points, 13 rebounds, 4 block shots. They should be running the ball into him in the post and then cutting and getting into shooting position. There's virtually nobody in the NBA that can stop him going to the hole when he wants to go. He stops himself, but he trips over himself occasionally, but that's because he's just so damn big and going so hard. But I'm amazed. They continue to want to, try and shoot the three-pointer, kind of leave him out of the offense. And basically, I think Jokic kind of gets his own stuff.
Well, how about this?
I don't think the whole team works too hard to get him offensive opportunities.
I think Evan Turner was a huge part of this game. But I think the guy that may have been an even bigger part that I think people overlook, Bobby, outside of C.J. McCollum, is Enes Kanter, who scored 12 points, had 13 rebounds, and played 40 minutes. And he is at least somebody that's going to make Jokic work for it.
And he did.
Yeah, he had the size that he could contain him a little bit and make him work for it. And then they brought in the Collins and Leonard. They had a nice trifecta of players down there And Paul Millsap, he didn't have a good second half at all. Steve is right. They didn't shoot the ball from three well at all. And Lillard and McCollum played all 24 minutes of the second half each. And I think definitely the best team won that. I do.
Yeah. And I would like to apologize, though,
Sixers.
because I thought Portland would wipe them out in 4 or 5. And they ended up taking it to 7. They're a lot better team than I thought they would be. Now, let's look at Golden State and Portland. I guess Steve, since he's already just told us Golden State's going to the finals, doesn't think Portland has much of a shot. Do you, Bobby? You did say that. You said Golden State and Milwaukee.
Well, I said they're going to the finals. Sure.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Well, we'll go over the probability of that on my show, or meaning my.
On your show. All right, Bobby. We'll have Bobby's show
no.
on at 2 o'clock.
No. That came out wrong.
Why don't you try to record that by yourself, Bobby?
Oh, come on. You know me. My part of the show, in terms of having the gambling odds, not my show. That's what I meant. But
once again, I don't believe in gambling, but if I did, 2 o'clock to Sheridan Report. Bobby's show.
Yes.
From now on, I
But
think
with
we're going to
that
post
said-
it today as Bobby's show, Steve. What do you think?
No.
It's called the Bobby Sheridan Show, isn't it? I thought that's
No,
what it
it's
was
the
called.
Sheridan
See, that's what
Report.
when he texts me, he says, Steve, you want to come on the Bobby Sheridan Show today?
All right,
No,
how about
text I
this?
get from the guy.
How about this? I think this, and I'm going to say this.
I do not get those texts.
I'm going to say this right
I do
now.
not get those texts.
The Portland Trailblazers will beat the Golden State Warriors.
Mike, good call on that. A very good call. I agree Portland's got a very big shot in this series. And the way that their guards can match up with Curry and Thompson, that was a great point you made. I know we talked about that a little bit off the air, Mike, yesterday. I really like that observation. And Portland's, they're running in 3-4 guys off the bench that are being very productive and know their roles. And the leadership of Lillard is unquestioned. And McCollum is a star in the making right before your eyes. So this is going to be a great series. And they have a nice home court up there at Portland. And this thing here, all those minutes that Golden State played in the previous series, and if Durant's not 100% and can't go, or if he can only go, look, they haven't posted the series. They've taken that down. They opened 5-1. They've taken that down right now as to the health of Durant. I think Portland's got a big shot here.
I don't think Durant plays until at least game 4 or 5, if he plays at all.
Yeah, I can see that happening too.
My key here is this. Lillard, I think, got the Steph Curry treatment against Denver, where he got doubled, he got trapped out to 30 feet and beyond, made him give up the ball, and then McCollum beat them. I think that is the way probably to defend them, because you take one of those two guys away. But the Golden State Warriors are not a team that defends like that. They really don't overextend their defense in the name of stopping one player. They'll switch and let guys guard. I mean, they did this even with James Harden, where they were taking him one-on-one. So I think there's a real good chance here that Lillard and McCollum can actually dominate this series. And on the flip side, with no Kevin Durant, what that makes it to me is the Blazers have an opening to maybe do a little what Houston did in Game 7 and double and blitz Curry without as much fear of being burnt on the backside underneath. Now, I know Portland tends to be a relatively conservative defense, and they kind of prioritize not giving up easy baskets. But I would think with this is a chance to basically do to Steph Curry what was done to Damian Lillard by the Denver Nuggets, and maybe take one of them away. I think this is going to be a great chess match, and I think the whole series is going to depend on how Curry is shooting the ball and how much he kills the Blazers on switches.
Good points, Mike. Great points, and I think Terry Stotts is capable of coming up with some things. He's gotten some good kudos last few games from these broadcasters. Have really talked about the things that he's done in that series to get Portland up the best opportunity to win. And I think he's another guy that can really break out in this series as a coaching candidate, in the NBA, being one of the top or better guys. And so I like it, Mike. I think Portland's got a big shot. This is a huge opportunity for them.
Well, and Steve, I think the other place where the Blazers have a huge advantage is depth, because if you look at Golden State, do you really trust Quinn Cook, Alfonso McKinney, Sean Livingston, and Jonas Jerebeko coming off the bench? Where you look at Portland, they've gotten great contributions at one point or another during the last 7 games from Rodney Hood, Evan Turner, who made numerous huge plays in Game 7. I think Seth Curry, not Steph, but I think Seth Curry is the X factor shooting the ball. And then Harkless played well yesterday. Aminu has been a guy, depending on what lineup that the Warriors use, he's a guy that could get solid playing time here too. And in past, especially early in this series against Denver, Aminu had some decent games. So I just think there's a lot more options for the Blazers. And if you're playing chess, you want as many pawns, I guess, on the chess table as you can. And I just think the Blazers have more.
I would agree. I mean, I'm looking down at the minutes played, and it's spread out pretty good for the Blazers. I mean, you got Cantor and Lillard and McCollum that each played over 40 minutes. But other than that, the rest of the minutes for the Blazers are spread out. And, all of their bench team, with the exception of M. Leonard, played 15 minutes or more in the game, which is pretty good. And you go down to Denver, I'm looking at Denver, and then go back to Golden State, and they pretty much rely on their first 5. But is that first 5, and that seems to be the mode in this whole tournament so far, the NBA playoffs, is that the starting 5 is kind of dominating playing time here. I've kind of seen that trend, haven't we?
Well, it's like that in college basketball too, but there's always that one team, even in the NCAA tournament, that goes 8 or 9 deep. It gives people problems. And my other problem with Golden State is a lot of the reasons Seth Curry was in foul trouble was because he has been lazy as hell on defense. He's been in trouble. He reaches, he slaps, he gets over aggressive trying to compete in situations where he has almost nothing to gain. And worst of all to me, it doesn't seem that he even understands that problem. And if he gets in foul trouble and he gets 2 or 3 early fouls in the first half of a game against McCollum and Lillard, and you've got to sub somebody in for him, and he doesn't have any points at the half, I think they're going to be out of the game by the time you get him back in the game. So I think he needs to show a lot more self-discipline and quit making stupid mistakes and stupid fouls, because this has been a problem even in the Clippers series for him.
Yeah, and he ended up again against Houston with 4 fouls. He's gone out a couple times with 2 fouls in the first quarter. I've noticed that. So that is a concern. I mean, you don't want to pull him off the court. He only played 34 minutes against Houston, which is really, other than Bogut, it's low on the starting 5. So other than the Bogut character, he plays the least minutes of any of the starters. But again, they got good minutes production out of the bench. Bell 11 minutes, Jerebeko 12 minutes, Looney 20, Cook 16, Livingston 14. So they're getting minutes, but they're not getting – they got fairly good production too. They got 11 points, 14 points.
Yeah, but I don't think – put it like this. So, if you have to trust a bench, you trust Portland's first. And the other thing – I know, Bobby, you tweeted about this during the playoffs, about how big offensive rebounds are in the playoffs. And the Blazers have grabbed 31.5% of all offensive rebounds available to them, which is the second best mark in the playoffs and the best mark of the 4 teams remaining.
Mike, you have done your homework. I'll tell you, you have impressed me with this.
I'm a genius, pretty much, but because Steve told me that so much, now I started to believe it.
This Portland Golden State analysis is just incredible. The fans are getting a good look at this, and trusting a bench is definitely on the Portland side. And Mike, you didn't even mention Leonard and Collins, those 2 white 6'9", 6'11" guys. Collins especially. Wow, that guy, he played 1 year at Gonzaga, right?
Yeah.
And they took him in the first round, and he's on his second or third. Well, he got traded, I think, from Sacramento or something, and he's really developed nicely. And there was a point yesterday when they said Malone had gathered him up after one of the games and said, "You know what? I really like how hard you play." That guy plays hard.
Well, how about this? When we talk about the rebounding also, I mean, it's according how they're going to play this because they're going to have Draymond Green in the starting five, which is going to make them small. When that happens, it's according how Terry Stotts, the Portland coach, wants to counter because I think if he stays big with Cantor, I think the Blazers could really go to work on the offensive glass there. But if they don't and they stay smaller and you got Zach Collins, he crashes the boards hard too. So I think either way, I think rebounding favors Portland.
Yeah, Lillard himself, for a small guy, he really jumps and competes well for rebounds. That's going to be a big stat in this series to watch. And you mentioned Seth Curry, the Blazers Curry. What a moment that must be for his mom and dad, to be able to show up in the one arena and watch both their kids play for a spot in the finals. Don't you think it'd be pretty cool if Seth was able to get this one? Steph has gotten so much of the, what does he have, 4 titles already and MVPs, and wouldn't it be cool if Seth, for the family, could get to the finals and try to get himself one? I don't know. To me, that'd be a great story.
All right. So, Steve, how long does this series go?
Oh, I think it goes 6 games easily, and maybe 7. I know this is no cakewalk for Golden State by far for all the reasons you stated. But I still think the starting 5 for Golden State is better than the starting 5 for Portland on the floor. And I think they're even better even without Durant.
I don't think there's any way the starting 5 for Golden State's better than Portland's.
Okay.
I think that Lillard and McCollum are a better backcourt.
Okay.
All around, I think they defend better, and I think they've been more consistent this year. And I think Portland wins this series in 4 or 5 games, Bobby.
Wow, huge statement.
Give me the odds on a 4-game sweep.
You know what? We're going to look them up as soon as they post all this. And, Mike, this is definitely a series that, if your take is right, you can make some good money on this series.
I know, but you know what, Bobby? Lately, my takes have not been that great.
Well, you've been hitting 2 out of 3s in your parlays. You've been getting beat because you haven't had straight bets going as much. But we'll get it going there, Mike. And
I don't worry about it, Bobby. In the end, I'll always win because I control the mute button, Bobby. That's the great thing.
I want to point out that Golden State has won a road game in 21 straight series. 21 straight. They've won at least one on the road. So does that get broken? Maybe.
Well, in 21 straight series, they've only lost 1 series, too, though, remember?
Right.
So
and this could be the series.
I don't know how long it's going. I'm telling you this. I think Portland's going to win the series. It wouldn't surprise me if they come out, jump on the Warriors, win the first 2 games, and go back home 2-0 up.
Plus 350 on that take, Mike. If you take them for the series, plus 350.
It's got to be more than plus 350 for a sweep.
Oh, for a sweep. Oh, big time. Yeah, we'll have to look that up, Mike, when that comes out.
That's one of them where I get that take and I put $5 on it to win 600, but I'm good with that. Let's see.
Heck yes.
All right, Bobby. What do you like, Golden State or Portland?
I like Portland to win this series. I'm with you. You got to have a take sometimes and be on the right side. This is a good opportunity, I think, to make some money in this series. I think Portland's going to handle themselves very well. And look, Game 1 is not a foregone conclusion that coming off this other series. We've seen it happen before. So that's going to be, that is the first game of the Western Conference. It is tomorrow night already. That's a quick turnaround for them, and they have all the excuses in the world to be down 0-1, for sure. This is Golden State's, clearly their best opportunity to take a game would be this first one.
Agreed.
But the lines.
I think the key is Durant coming back, but is he going to come back healthy? If he doesn't come back healthy, then he's not going to be as effective and may become a liability to the team as opposed to an asset. but I know he'll want to play. I think he'll want to play.
Well, the problem is, if he comes
Maybe he doesn't
back,
want to play.
the doctor I read said it wouldn't be to like games 4 or 5. Hell, they might already be down 3-1 or 2-0 or 2-1 by the time he comes back.
Yeah, and I'm going to get blasted for this. But I think, Mike, statistically, you went through a great analysis, but I think the last 2 minutes of conversation between you two, to me, sounded like wishful thinking.
Okay.
I again, earlier you went through a great statistical analysis defending why you think Portland, but the last 2 minutes between you two, when you were talking about the odds and the winning, as a person just sitting here listening to you, it sounded a lot like wishful thinking.
Why is that?
I just think, if was used a lot.
No, I just asked, what if it's a 4-game sweep? I've never once said Golden State was going to win this series.
What you said if in that sentence? You use the word if a lot.
When did I use the word if
a lot? You start hoping. You said, I don't remember the exact phrase that you said, but if it's a 4-game sweep.
Yeah.
You said.
I said, what are the odds if it's a 4-game sweep?
Yeah.
Oh, bullshit, Steve. I just asked what the odds were.
Okay.
Golden State will not beat the Portland Trailblazers. I don't give a shit if it's in 4 games or 7 games. Portland's going to win the series.
Okay.
Yeah, then I said 3.5 to 1, and he said, well, not if it's a 4-game sweep.
Yeah, that's the only if.
Yeah.
My only if is I think that 3.5 to 1 are great odds to win the series. My if is, what if it's a 4-game sweep? It's not like I said, well, what if Golden State wins? Because they're not going to. And it doesn't matter because Milwaukee's going to win it all, as I told you, Steve, in January when you were picking the Lakers against the Celtics.
And that's why I don't gamble, don't bet, don't get involved in betting conversations. I'm not smart.
We're not involved in a betting conversation.
I know my
we're
strengths
picking the
and
games.
I know my weaknesses. So I'm looking for a great series. I think it's going to be a great series. I think you got 2 very solid basketball teams. You're going to go at each other, and it's going to come down to doink, 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 doink through the hoop.
No, it'll come down to C.J. McCollum with a swish to win Game 4 by 6. And to sweep the
That's
series.
another version of doink, 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 doink. Through the
No, it ain't. It's just swish. Doink, doink, doink is what people that can't shoot here when they shoot.
Oh, Kyrie Leonard can't shoot. That's for sure.
Well, his name's Kawhi or Kawi, or is it Kawawi?
Kawhi.
Because now, there you go. See, but for most of the show, you got his name right. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up tomorrow. Me and Steve will be back to talk about something else. I don't know what it is yet. Steve, you know what it is?
No, I'll figure something out.
Maybe we could just change the name of the show to Doink, Doink, Doink. I kind of like that.
Yeah, doink, doink, doink. It's doink, 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 doink through the hoop. There's 4 doinks.
All right, and
but I do think we need to revise our top 10 list from Friday from great clutch plays. I definitely think that his shot was a clutch shot. He was deep in the corner.
You would put that on one of the top 10 clutch plays of all time.
I think it's pretty clutch when he's fading out off the court.
So you think that's one of the top 10 clutch
face.
moments of all time?
No, I think we discussed more than 10 Friday.
I don't care if we talk 20. That's not going to be there because, number one, it was a terrible shot. He choked on it. He hits the side of the rim and it bounces straight up in the air and goes in. It's luck.
Well, he missed a free throw just before that, too.
Yeah, he missed a free throw right before that. That's not clutch. And is it harder to hit a 7-foot putt to win the Masters with everybody really quiet and nobody around? Or is it harder to hit a 3-pointer falling out of bounds with somebody in your face and 20,000 people screaming?
I've never taken either opportunity to try either one of them, so I would
I'm just
not
asking
be
you what
qualified
you
to
would
answer
think.
that question.
I would say with somebody
speculating.
guarding me, it would be much harder to do than doing it all by myself.
I would be forced to use the word if, and then you're
It's
just
not.
guessing.
Why would you be forced to use the name or the word if? It's just a point that when you talk about clutch golf shots, you're just basically clutch against your own brain. Where when you're clutch in an actual sport, you have to play basketball. You got somebody guarding you. You got 20,000 people going nuts. You get this idiot ref that could screw it up at any time for you.
Well, plus hitting a moving ball is harder than hitting a stationary ball. That's why we hit 300, you make $1 million.
I don't even know what baseball has to do with this, Bobby. I don't know why you always got to put your baseball stuff in the middle of everything. But
I don't know, Bobby. Hitting a stationary ball this week is going to bring a winner about $2.5 million for hitting a stationary ball.
Yeah, but that ball is stationary, Steve. That's a lot more difficult to hit a ball in baseball than it is in golf.
And it could curve. All right, we're going to quit talking about balls for now. Maybe we'll do a show later on in the week where we talk about which balls are harder to do. But we'll just call the show Top 10 Balls of All Time. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you check out the Sheridan Report at Sheridan Report on Twitter. Make sure you check out the Risley Report at Risley Risley34.
No. What? No, we have the NASCAR show coming up. This week with Alex Gray. A absolutely fantastic race in Kansas City Friday night or Saturday night.
You don't even know what night it was.
I won't go any farther because I know NASCAR bores the crap out of you, so we won't discuss it. But check out the NASCAR report with Alex Gray and myself, and we really finally things are coming together for NASCAR in terms of their aero packages and things and whatnot. But we'll save that for another show.
I did hear that, Steve. I heard that the package in that race came together better than it has all year.
It fit that track. The package fit that track perfectly, and they've now solved. If that package holds, they have solved a monumental problem that NASCAR was having. This was these flat 1.5 mile tracks that were boring races and parades, and they turned it into a race with more lead changes than this race, and they've had in the last 5 races combined. A dead heat finish, and passing in the last 3 or 4 laps by several cars, and the package came to fruition for them. But like I said, listen to the NASCAR show and our resident expert, Alex Gray, who probably knows more than Mike does and is better at delivering the information.
About what?
I don't know, he's a sportscaster on a legitimate radio station.
He is? Where?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not a legitimate radio station. That's a station that, no offense to Alex, that you can hear 5 miles around campus.
And now he's getting hired by a TV station in Louisville.
Yeah. And what was on his resume to get him hired? Who did you?
You're on a podcast.
Wait a second. Who did he use for the reference to get that job? I wonder, was it Steve Risley? No, it wasn't.
I'm not qualified to be a reference for that.
Huh. But I was. So, Risley, as I would so eloquently put it, you could suck it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up while Steve does that. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere else you find sports podcast. So, for Bobby Sheridan, that Risley guy, I'm Mike Goodpaster. I don't know. I didn't end that right. I'm sorry I disrespected you, Risley. For Bobby Sheridan, Steve Risley, who's sucking it right now, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where Risley sucks it. Look.